Good evening and welcome everyone. I'd like to thank the chaplain. I'd like to ask the chaplain to say a few words. We continue to reflect on the conflict in our world and we pray for peace. We gather, those of us with faith and no faith, those of us with hope and no hope, those who have been heard and those who have been silenced. But we gather in the presence of a loving God who is at work in our world. So we pray for leaders of the nations today, that the making of peace may be their common endeavour throughout the world. We pray for the leaders of this council and for all who serve their communities, and we give thanks for their commitment. Hear our prayer for all in whom trust is placed, all through whom knowledge is sought, and all through whom love is asked. Help us to work together so that truth and justice, harmony and fairness flourish among us. Amen. Amen.
Yeah, that's better. So a proper welcome with the microphone. Yeah. First item then is apologies for absence.
Thank you, Chair. Apologies have been received from Councillor Coe and Councillor.
Second one is declarations of interest. Right, Councillor Pullen.
Thank you, Chair. Just anything in relation to the discussion of an LLP on the council's representative on that LLP, Darwin Prospects. Thank you.
Thank you, and the Chief Executive.
Thank you, Chair. The same as the Leader of the Council. I'm a Director on Darwin Prospects LLP.
Thank you. Are there any other declarations of interest? No. Okay. Thank you. Then I've missed my. Yeah, okay. Item 3 then is to approve as a correct record the minutes of the previous meeting. Councillor Norman and then Councillor Trent.
Thank you, Chair. It's just item 80 on the appointments to committees. The first bullet point and the third bullet point. Are they correct?
Again. So, sorry, Councillor Norman, can you just say that again? Just catching up with myself.
The first bullet point and the third bullet point of the minutes. Are they correct? Just a bit surprised, that's all.
First bullet point. Which minute?
Minute 80, first bullet point and
Thank
the third
you.
bullet point.
We'll catch
Are they
up
correct?
with you. Thank you. Right. Page 10. Oh, okay. Very funny. Very funny. I think that's okay. I think they were correct at the time. Yeah. And Councillor Trent, I think, also had a point.
Thank you, Chair. It was just the minutes at 79.
Thank you.
It states there that Councillor Cox emphasised the importance of the council tax reduction scheme. I think, in fact, that was one of my remarks in my comments. I think Councillor Cox referred to CVS funding. So I wonder if that could be correct, please.
Yeah, so we're all happy with that Councillor Trent, rather than Councillor Cox, gets the credit for that remark. Yeah, we got that. Any other questions about the minutes? So Councillor Cox, do you think you said it as well?
I think what I would have said that I support the resolution. So I suppose if that could be minuted, because I'm sure that's what I did say, that I was supporting it.
Okay. Right, we can add that as well. Okay. Any other comments about the accuracy of the minutes? No. Can someone move? We accept them then with those amendments. Thank you, Councillor Woodward, Councillor A. Smith. Done that. Right. So the minutes are approved, subject to the amendments made. Yeah, chair's announcements. I always thought I'm going to confer. I have very few I have some announcements. I've been to everything that I was allowed to go to, was invited to, and was available, which has not been a great deal, I must admit, but I had a very pleasant evening with a neighbouring authority that I hope was a three-point event, because I did enjoy it and I think it was useful and suitable to go to. I did some prizes to the Scouts where I managed to be the chair of this council and the chair of another one. But what I mostly wanted to say, and I hope it's not inappropriate, and if it is, there's envelopes on the tables that you can just tear up. As I said last time, I've got a charity which is MHA Communities, which is a charity that does a lot of fantastic lunch clubs, events in Burntwood, several Burntwood venues and in Lichfield venues, and attracts people from all over the district. I'm not chair for very long, and I haven't really had time to organise anything. So I've taken the liberty of putting a collection box outside and some envelopes if you wanted to put a £5 note or a £20 note or anything in an envelope for gift aid. It's entirely up to you. And I say, I hope it's not inappropriate to it. And I've given them some publicity. There are some little collection boxes if you want to take one home and file anyone who says confidential or paddle tennis to you. Put £1 in every time that happens, and that might raise some money. So if you can or want to give generously, I think it's a good cause, and it's not clear to me how the chair of the district manages to raise any money much for a charity. So that's my main announcement. Okay, so we can move on swiftly to the report of the Leader of the Council on Cabinet decisions from the meetings held on 6th of February and that's what the heading says, the 5th of March and the 9th of April. Yeah, Councillor Pullen, I'll call on you.
Thank you, Chair. It gives me great pleasure to be able to bring this report to full council tonight. It's a report which covers many millions of investment, not only in regeneration, but also in things that matter to our residents, in addressing homelessness in our leisure facilities right across the district. It discusses the 2 design codes, which I've long been a champion of, and I'm so pleased to finally see these coming forward into the next stage of the design codes, which we know our residents are really focused on and will really welcome. So it brings me great pleasure to bring this report. I will move first of all, or bring the cabinet decisions on the 5th of March, followed by the 9th of April, and then cabinet member decisions. I'll go through them item by item, Chair, for any questions. First up is the cabinet decisions from 5th of March 2024. Number 1, governance of planning obligations, strategic infrastructure group, and allocation of community infrastructure levy.
Do you want to take questions?
Yeah, I'll take questions as I go,
Any
Chair.
questions on that? On Councillor Marshall.
Thank you very much. I think this is the appropriate place. Yes, the question for the leader, please. With the emergence of a new local plan, a key part is the delivery of an appropriate infrastructure required to support the growth identified within the local plan. Could the leader please tell me, how do you see the infrastructure list delivering these key attributes for this district, please? Thank you.
it sort of overlaps the next one as well, doesn't
So
it?
it's a beautiful segue into
Yeah, you
question
can
number
do
two,
both,
actually.
yeah.
But I'll go to local plan update, and I'll answer that question. If
Okay.
that's all right. And any other questions that arise as well, of course, on number two. In response to Councillor Marshall's question, I think for too long we have perhaps taken perhaps a tactical approach to how we deliver our seal and 106 obligations. We've asked people to come forward to apply for a pot of money which is available through those developer contributions. Actually, I think we ought to be being really clear as a council amongst all of us about the infrastructure that's required across the entire district, really setting out that clear direction and then asking people to bid in for projects which actually help us deliver that infrastructure. So we're in charge of what infrastructure gets delivered rather than being driven by the bids that come in.
Okay.
Thank you.
And then number two, I think, is that cover number two as well?
Number two,
'Cause
local plan update.
Yeah, so Councillor Salter then, I think. is
Thank you,
question
Chair. I
number
was
two.
just waiting for number two to be said.
Yeah.
Good evening, thank you. Shenstone Parish Council is currently in various stages of the process of reviewing all three of its neighbourhood plans. Having been made in around 2015, they are already a few years late being reviewed, due in no small part to the previous uncertainties relating to the now withdrawn LDC local plan. Shenstone's reviews are presently being linked in accordance with LDC's existing local plan, as they are likely to be finished before any emerging LP is finalised. However, there must by now be several other parish areas whose neighbourhood plans are due or possibly even overdue for their reviews, awaiting news about the content of the local plan with which it must mesh. Can the leader please give some indication as to the progress to date of the newly proposed local plan, and in particular give an indication of its likely completion and subsequent inspectorate approval, in order that those parishes currently in a state of limbo might be able to decide whether to commence a review linked to the current local plan or wait for the new one to be made. They may even have to halt progress of one that's in progress at the moment. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you. Yeah.
Thank you, Chair. Thanks, Councillor Salter, for the question. I remain convinced that pulling the local plan that we'd submitted to the planning inspector was the right thing to do. But equally, I think we'd had quite a bit of challenge from within this chamber about making sure we sped it up and didn't allow it to drift, the submission of the next local plan. We are currently on track to do our Regulation 18 consultation, that public consultation in October of this year, to do our Reg 19 of October, November next year, and then to go to examination in August 2026, with the expectation that that is adopted in early 2027, just in time for the local elections, which I'm sure won't be a topic of conversation at those local elections. We know local plans are an emotive subject, but equally it's really important that we retain control as a council of where developments come forward in our district, and we look forward to all of us around this chamber being involved in that, so we can get the very best of our district and our residents right across through that formation of the local plan. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Are there any other questions on item number two? Okay, number three then.
Thank you, Chair. Number three, sale of 29 to 33 Levitts Field, Lichfield. And then moving on to cabinet decisions from the 9th of April.
Should we just say that there's the cinema and the design code come up as substantive items later on, so questions could be kept on those till later, but
that's an incredibly helpful point. Thank you, Chair. So number 4, design code for the Birmingham Road development site. Number 5, the Lichfield District Design Code supplementary planning document. Number 6, delivering temporary accommodation for vulnerable adults.
Yeah, Councillor Ball has a question.
Thank you, Chair. I don't think anyone in this chamber will be surprised to hear me commend this move. Not before time. I've tried for 5 years since I was elected to this council to get this to happen. I'm pleased it's happening now. I note under item 6.1 that the council needs to approve recommendation 2.4 of the cabinet report, and on item 6.4 that the council also needs to agree to the increase in the budget. I can't see anywhere else on the agenda
an opportunity to approve that. So if Councillor Pullen would like to move those two items now, I'd be very happy to second them so that we can move on and get it done.
I think we are later on the agenda, aren't we?
Well, it's under the local plan. I think.
Yeah, I thought we had an item on the agenda later on. Where are we at 14? Bear with me, Councillor Bull.
I know that's no. I don't
If
know.
we don't have it on here, then do we need to do so?
It's 2. There's a recommendations 2, 3, and 2, 4. Sorry.
If I can be helpful, I think because
Sure.
Councillor Pullen has moved the whole report, the implication is that any recommendations within that report are so moved. And so Councillor Boring seconding those recommendations allows us to take a decision as a council.
Okay. Right. Okay. So we're all right. Thank you.
Okay, I'm being overruled, Councillor Bull, but thank you for your support. Appreciate it. Number 7 is the skateboard facility at Burntwood Leisure Centre.
Okay. Councillor Ennis has a question. Councillor Darren Ennis has a question.
Yeah, thank you very much. Following the loss of the skate park in Burntwood, it was a brilliant show of how a parish council, Burntwood Town Council, could approach Lichfield District Council and show how two councils can work together to formulate a plan on something that was negative and not of our making. The residents of Burntwood were very disappointed to this, to the point of which they raised a petition, and we were able to approach Lichfield District Council, and it was very admirable, like the speed and the swiftness of which we worked on this. The petition was started 1 week and we had a solution for them a week later. It's a brilliant example of how a parish council can approach and work with this district council, and I think we should be very, very proud of that fact, and this is highlighting what other parish councils around the district can do for us. Following on from that swiftness, if the leader could just reassure that that won't stop and that won't slow down. We've now allocated this money. Burntwood Town Council has done the same thing. Lichfield District Council does so with this proposal. So I'd like to see that the plans for the skate park would work just as swiftly, and some assurances off the leader that will be the case. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Ennis. It is good to see the district council and parish councils working well together and swiftly. We have more than 20 parish councils across the district, and I think at least 50 of them have been in touch with me in this week to ask for more money after seeing what good work we've done with Burntwood Town Council. So yeah, sometimes be careful what you wish for, but no, a brilliant example of us working very well together, and wholeheartedly welcome your desire for swiftness on that. I believe we'll be using Lichfield West Midlands Traded Services to deliver that, and every confidence in them to project manage that and work with the community to deliver a facility that we can all be proud of.
Thank you. Number 8.
Number 8, Lichfield District 2050 strategy.
Councillor Woodward has a question.
Thanks, Chair. Can I welcome the fact that this council, hopefully by the end of this meeting, will have a strategy that takes it forward to 2050. Councils usually set their strategic plans for a 4-year electoral cycle, and it's good to see that we're going to book that trend and look further ahead. Certainly people will think it's ambitious. I think that's a good thing. I think it is good to be ambitious. And we all understand that between now and 2050, not all of those provisions will be deliverable. But I think this is a really good piece of work that sets out a vision, a long-term vision for this council. Can I particularly commend the officers for the work they did on the consultation, because they went out again to consultation to make sure that younger voices were heard during this, and that to me is very commendable. It wasn't just taking a small sample of voices of residents across the district area. I'm as ambitious for Lichfield District Council, and my group members, I'm sure, will join me in saying they're as ambitious for Lichfield District Council for the benefit of our residents as those in the controlling group. So I do really welcome this forward-thinking strategy. And the test will be, of course, in delivery. And I was grateful for the assurances when we looked at this, the Overall Scrutiny Committee, that the delivery plans will regularly come back to members so that we can see where we are, track the work that's being done on each of those objectives and make sure we're on course for delivering those. So I very much welcome this report. Thanks,
You
Chair.
don't have a question for him? No, well, that's fine. Number 9, briefly, but we can deal
Thank
with
you,
that
Chair.
then.
Number 9, securing an anchor food and beverage tenant for the cinema complex.
Which is
Would have been
item
easier if we just put the name in
15
there,
and
wouldn't it?
16 on the agenda.
On to cabinet member decisions, Chair.
Yeah.
Number 10, the amendment of an experimental traffic regulation order, ETRO, for the pedestrianisation of
Yeah,
Lichfield.
Councillor Ray has a question
Thank
or
you,
a
Chair.
comment.
Yeah, thank you, Chair. I just wanted to make the point that I made at ONS and just ask if the leader would just respond to it, is that I don't want to get into the detail of pedestrianisation, but I think there are some learning lessons for the council as to clear communications when we have projects and programmes going forward and making them simple for our residents. Obviously, we went down a route with pedestrianisation, having a hybrid scheme, which I think in hindsight was never going to work. So I'd just like the leader to respond to that and hopefully acknowledge that those 2 points are points that the council needs to embed and take forward with future projects.
Thank you, Councillor Ray. And I think there's a perfectly valid point there about communicating perhaps some complex issues as simply as we possibly can to make sure that there's no misunderstanding. Clearly, with the issue of pedestrianisation, it isn't a simple task. There are multiple complexities, and ensuring that we achieve the aims of pedestrianisation whilst also ensuring that we allow access to as many possible people from across our district unimpeded is really important for us. Sometimes that does give rise to complexities which perhaps are difficult to convey in simple terms, but fully welcome that point, and we'll take that on board. Thank you. Number 11, to award a contract for the Birmingham Road multi-storey car park demolition and associated works.
Councillor Whitehouse has a question.
Yeah, thank you, Chair. Can I please ask you, Leader? I've had various concerns from residents about the demolition of the Birmingham Road site, multi-storey car park site. I just wanted you to give us some assurances about the timeline regarding this demolition and what are the plans regarding the site, and in particular to find replacement car parking spaces at that end of the city. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Councillor Whitehouse. The 26-week work programme begins in May. So, yeah, quite literally in the coming weeks, that 26-week programme of work will begin. And I think it's useful for us to remember why we're bringing the multi-storey car park down. There are lots of reasons. I know Councillor Harvey Coggins very much likes brutalist architecture, and it's not because it's brutalist architecture that we're bringing it down, although that would definitely be on my list. We are bringing it down because it is a fundamental part of the regeneration of the Birmingham Road site. It allows us to create that plaza around the empty Debenhams building. It allows the cinema to come forward. It allows food and beverage units to come forward. It provides the link through from the Birmingham Road site through to Three Spires, which we know has long been an ambition of this council to ensure that you can allow that free movement from the train station right through to the city centre. So we have a work programme, 26 weeks, 6 months, which will be beginning very shortly. And we have a very clear vision of what we are doing it for, what will come forward and what will replace it. Thank you.
Councillor Norman.
In 1995,
is there a question?
I became chair of Environmental Health Services and made the service legal because it wasn't at the time. But the first thing I was told by the senior officer, and along with us, of course, is that the multi-storey car park was a disaster. It was about to fall down. So I live with that fear. Well, you work out the years, but it's been quite a long time. So the sooner it's demolished, the easier I'll be able to sleep in my bed. Just to mention it. Thank you.
Well, we're all very happy about. Councillor Woodward had a question.
Thanks, Chair. Just to follow on from Councillor Norman's history lesson, I remember in 2019, I called in a decision for this council to invest £300,000 in what was already a defunct car park in terms of its structure. So I just want to correct Councillor Pullen in his comment that this has been a long-standing ambition of the council. No, it hasn't. Only 5 years ago, the ambition of this council was to spend £250,000 on renovations to that car park, just to correct the record.
Okay, thank you.
I will stand by my point that it has been a long-standing ambition of the council to break through at the top of 3 spires, which is long featured in the plans. Number 12, Chair, Lichfield West Midlands Traded Services Business Plan 2024-2025. Number 13, Discretionary Business Rates Policy. Number 14, Launch of Planning, Transformation Initiatives and Fees. Number 15, Membership of West Midlands Employers. And number 16, Private Healthcare Insurance Provider.
Councillor Chetland.
Thank you, Chair. I just wondered if the leader could explain to me and to the House why it is that we're providing private healthcare for our employees. What are the benefits?
Because we decided to do it.
Thanks, Councillor Chetland, and appreciate the question. I think that's a question that's been asked by many people about why we're providing as a council private healthcare to our employees. It is not a benefit that many councils up and down the country provide to their employees, and I think we stick out like a bit of a sore thumb in doing so, to the point that I was half expecting a letter from the local government minister after he'd written to South Cambridge to stop telling them to do 4-day weeks. I thought he was going to write to us to stop telling us to provide private medical care. My view, Chair, and Councillor Chetland, is that actually it's up to us as a local government how we best form the right staff, the right organisation, the right culture within our organisation. We know that there are many sick days taken by particularly our waste operatives, who in particular have a number of conditions related to the very physical work that they do. So from a purely financial perspective, it makes sense to ensure that we take care of our staff who are frequently taking time off due to musculoskeletal issues. Beyond that, actually, we know that we're attempting to create a culture at Lichfield District Council that can challenge and spar and take on the private sector. Quite frankly, private medical care is something that many people within the private sector would expect as part of their package. We want to attract the very best staff to this district council, and this is part of doing it, and really pleased that we're able to bring this to council this evening.
Thank you. Okay, I think that then concludes item 5, and then we can move on to item 6, the minutes of the overview and scrutiny committee, and I call on Councillor Norman.
Thank you, Chair. I submit the public minutes of the meeting held on the 3rd of April 2024.
And is there a seconder?
Yeah, there is, yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Yes, Chair, second the minutes.
Thank you very much, Councillor Young. So you can go through them then.
Present, the minutes here. 63, apologies for absence. Declaration of interest, 64. Minutes of the previous meeting, 65. 66, Youth Council review.
Yeah, Councillor Trent has a, is that on item 66? Yeah.
There we go. Youth Council. It was just to add to what's written in the minutes there, that in the meeting there was support of the Youth Council generally as an excellent initiative, and certainly in my remarks at that meeting I was saying ways to ensure it survives and thrives. And so I was pleased to see in the minutes that the chair's remarks of the chair of that committee, his remarks are recorded there. Open invite to youth councillors to attend ONS. I think that's an excellent idea, and I would extend it and say if youth councillors could attend and watch this forum or other subcommittees of council, and perhaps even do a presentation to address district councillors. I think that kind of initiative could really stimulate interest on both sides. And so, yeah, those are all right. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Norman.
Yeah, I mean, I support those suggestions. The more we can get young people involved in democracy and how civil society works, the better. In fact, we used to have schools visiting council chambers. I don't know why it stopped, but government councils go through the various phases and fashions. And I remember once I was here when we had a school, and they'd all obviously they were all whipped, so they're all doing a certain thing. And I suggested to the chair that now the whip's taken off. It was a much more interesting meeting then, and I'd recommend it. 67, when I get to the page.
Yeah,
I'm going to the
Councillor
page, yeah.
Councillor Evans, then Councillor M. Wilcox.
Yes, Chairman, I want to speak on 66 to Councillor Norman, because I'm not on ONS, but having read this report, there are certain things that I would like to ask for clarification on. And the first one is, what are the perceived overall outcomes of the Youth Council now that it has been running for a year? And I also note on the review that a number of questions were asked at ONS, and it is important that a wide cross-section of young people across the district are engaged. And I note that there are other schools that do need to get involved, and maybe some that are outside the district, but do have children from this district attending their schools. Because I think we need to have a true picture of what they want from their youth council. So is that happening? Are we still going down the route soon of actually engaging more young people? And have the youth councillors been asked to discuss the agenda items with officers? Because I'm concerned there need to be clear aims and objectives and an evaluation taking place to monitor the effectiveness of the youth council.
Thank you. Sorry, I missed calling you earlier. This is still 66. So.
Yeah. Yes, just to say that I was disappointed in the report we received, because I thought it was quite a good report from Councillor Richard Cox. Because I'd heard rumours about what was happening or not happening at the Youth Council, but I think I personally was quite reassured by the progress that's been made. It's in its first year. We're still learning, and I think it's always difficult to keep people engaged, whether they're young people or not, actually. And I think efforts are being made to try and encourage young people to get more involved. Yeah, we did look at those. Well, the first questions is about the schools and why they weren't getting involved. That's a matter for the schools themselves and maybe the students there. But we were trying to ask. We were reassured by the cabinet member that we would actually encourage those schools to get involved. In fact, there's one member there who suggested any school that had a pupil who lived in this district should also be contacted. I threw in Eton and Marlborough, not knowing whether we got any pupils there, but it can be a bit difficult. But certainly there was no stone was left unturned in trying to get as many as we can involved in the youth council, as I understand it. So there's quite a few questions on that, also about where we're going. And I say there's a learning process here. But I was pleased with the questions that were asked, and even though not all in the minutes, because there's a limit to what you can do. I can assure the Councillor Evans that things are being made, progress is being made, as I understand it, and I look forward to a future report in another report in the future to see that progress. And certainly that open invitation to ONS, and I can go there as well, by the way, is still there.
I think
so. Hopefully that answers the.
I think it's Councillor Wilcox. Are you on 66 as well? Yeah. Sorry. Yeah.
Thank you, Chair. I just wanted to say that by kind information of Councillor Cox, we, from the part of my remit in climate change and ecology, brought to the Youth Council the recycling campaign to showcase it to them, to get their views as a younger generation, to see how it would work. And we had some really good feedback from them. And in fact, they helped us in modifying the game that we're going to show in schools. So it really was a really worthwhile experience to have the Youth Council participate in that, and they will certainly be our ambassadors going forward. So I think it really is a learning curve for us all. The youth are the people we need to attract. We were all there once upon a time, and I think it's important that we continue to work with them where we can.
Thank you. So we can move on, I think, to 67. Right, this is why I get confused. So it's Councillor Evans and Councillor Wilcox, but this time on 67.
Thank you, Chair. An important issue in this district, indeed all over the country actually, is the difficulty of obtaining NHS dental appointments. And recently it has been constantly highlighted in the national press, and it is particularly worrying that children are not receiving the dental checkups, and long-term this could have severe consequences, and indeed for a lot of adults who are unable to access NHS dental care. And I appreciate that this actually is not an item that is strictly the responsibility of this council, but I do believe that we owe it to the community to request that it takes high priority at the county council. So I hope that the chair and others are able to get the message across, because we are constantly seeing anybody that follows social media that people are having extreme difficulties. Thank you, Chair.
Do you want to perhaps, Councillor, do you want to answer that one, or do you want to answer them both? Whatever suits you best, really.
Yeah, I mean, I always recommend people to go to the minutes of the, well, to the agendas actually of the Overview and Scrutiny, Health and Overview and Scrutiny Committee at the County Council to see more details on there, and of course they can watch the webinars as well. The issue, as I understand it, is similar to the rest of the Midlands, and in fact, just to quote one paragraph from the report, it was reported that the main issue is preventing recovery in terms of access to dental care, this is after COVID, where a national shortage of dentists and contract handbacks by providers as a result of their dissatisfaction with the dental contract. It was reported there had been ministerial commitments for dental contract reforms and dental plan, however, this had not yet been received. And then the committee were advised that the ICB, the Integrated Care Board, the ICB was supporting a range of initiatives to improve dental access along with other West Midland ICBs. And then, although it's not actually on the list for the future health scrutiny committees, I'm sure that will be something that will be raised again, and I'll make sure that, well, I'm pretty sure that my vice chair has heard it as well, and when appropriate, we'll actually raise that. So it is an important issue, and we have a role to play as a lobbying body, as a health scrutiny committee within the Overview and Scrutiny Committee. And I know that the leader of the opposition wants a separate thing, which I'm hoping to get soon.
Councillor Wilcox.
Thank you, Chair. I think ONS and this council have a really good opportunity having Leonie Leong on the Health and Care Overview and Scrutiny Committee, along with members of the County Council here this evening. But equally now we have a rare opportunity that only comes around every few years, and it's our time to take on the representation of this district on the Health and Wellbeing Board for Staffordshire. And that's an opportunity for us to make sure that all the partners around that table, whether they be the ICB, the police, the fire, Support Staffordshire, Health Watch Staffordshire, it really is an opportunity for us as a district council to play into that agenda, to make sure that we can back here get all the information about what is going on, how we can play and influence that agenda going forward. So it's an opportunity for us. Leonie will be representing the south districts of Staffordshire. So it is an opportunity. We have it for 2 years, and I implore that we do all we can to make sure that items that we want to see raised at the Health and Wellbeing Board or at Health and Care Overview and Scrutiny Committee are taken forward, because I do believe we have a part to play in that arena here.
Thank you. I think Councillor Woodward has, yeah.
Thanks, Chair. I welcome that information from Councillor Wilcox. Certainly in the past, our opportunity to lobby the ICB, the Integrated Care Board, has been very limited. And I wouldn't say there have been conversations because the information has been one way. You know, people on the ground here lobbying the ICB, but the ICB turning a deaf ear. So I welcome the fact that Councillor Young is going to be our representative, and I'm sure she'll get a whole list of issues from all of us as members on the, you know, things that she can hopefully take forward on our behalf. Thanks.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Number 68.
Thank you, Chair. 68. By the way, at the beginning of the minutes there, you'll see that I did say I'd like to get the meeting through by 9 o'clock. There was no problem, no reason why it shouldn't do, although my vice chair wasn't optimistic, as it happens. But I did keep a note of times, and I was on schedule at the notes from task groups, 7 p.m. And in fact, I was 4 minutes ahead of schedule at that point. I'll give a running commentary later on as we go along. Just on the notes from the task groups on the regarding the pedestrianisation there, I did email the officer here responsible, if you like, for pedestrianisation, saying I would be grateful if you could let me know if the out-of-date signs are being removed this week, and please copy me into any substantial reply to the person who'd emailed me, who was one of the witnesses that we interviewed at that meeting. That was the 11th of April. And I see that there's a question later on where the answer is in there, as I got today from him. So things that we are actually, as a pedestrian task group, we are doing things. We may have to have 2 more because it's very difficult to get the officer and the cabinet member at the same time. So we might have to have 2 separate meetings, but there is a date that has been suggested, and hopefully my fellow task group members will be able to make that date, but I didn't hear my can yet. Some looked, but we'll look into that. 69 notes and revised matrix for the Civic Master Task Group.
Councillor Salter has a comment or question.
Thank you, Chair. As most members will know, this is a subject close to my heart, and so through the wizardry of our YouTube channel, I watched with anticipation and a plentiful supply of coffee. The agenda item of the civic matter was raised almost an hour into the meeting, but I was rather taken aback by the suggestion that the item be restricted to just 6 minutes discussion. That said, Chair, I should like to thank Councillor Norman for eventually permitting the written input from past and present chairs, and also thank the Task and Finish Group for taking some notice of the comments made. In particular, that at the joint discretion of the Chair and Civic Officer, some flexibility of the matrix is permitted, and also the allowance that the Chair can attend events which do not actually fit the matrix, but only at the Chair's own expense. I was further pleased to hear that even in those circumstances, the chain of office may be worn, thereby fulfilling the role of representational figurehead of this council. It was good to hear, Chair, that the invite the chair button or function on our website will soon include a feature which, should the chair be unable to attend, a link will take the inquirer to information and contact details for their ward member and for the chair of their parish council, so that their event might still benefit from some level of civic representation. And I trust, Chair, that Cabinet will generally support many of the moves recommended by the ONS Task Group in their efforts to simplify the matrix, and in doing so, perhaps extend the role in an effort to regain some of the lost integrity and importance of the role itself. Chair, may I question the use of a task and finish group? At the commencement of this agenda item, the group's chairman announced that this was the first time such a system had been used by ONS, but I wonder if this is perhaps contrary to the protocol and agreed terms of reference of the ONS group, in that whilst they are able to create task groups, these are set to investigate issues and bring their findings back to the ONS main committee for further and full discussion and eventual determination. On this occasion, evidenced not only by the terminology, but also the fact that only 6 minutes window was given, which would thereby only permit a report without time for full discussion, it would appear that the subgroup were effectively given devolved powers to make conclusions on behalf of the primary committee. Now, I conclude, Chair, with the point that the original matrix was created basically to determine whether an event was appropriate for the chair to attend. It is now obvious that the only reason for having a matrix or a point system entirely revolves around the evaluation as to whether an event is worthy of financial expenditure. This is clearly borne out by the statement that the chair can attend as a representative of the council and in regalia anything, even if it doesn't qualify, but at their expense. Why then was there absolutely nothing within either the report from the task group itself or during the discussion at ONS about the cost of attendance? There was no reference at all to actual or potential costs and or savings. The only figure in the whole document is £200, which is for the chair's clothing allowance. Nothing to do with attendance. There were no other figures presented whatsoever. Without such figures, there is no actual evidence for the need of a matrix at all. And so, in my opinion, Chair, this has been very much a task and unfinished group. And the whole exercise has proved nothing. Again, Chair, when this comes to Cabinet, I trust the whole reason will be fully considered.
Thank you, Councillor Salter. You've had a few more minutes,
Sorry, I don't know
minutes
whether
on
my
it.
mic was on there.
Do you have any comment? No, do you want to? Well, the things have been heard. As those 70, moving on. What are you going to say?
I didn't understand that reference to the 6 minutes from the member, but you'll have to tell me later what that was about. It was a task and finish group. It had a task and it finished it. The end of the day, it's the Overview and Scrutiny Committee that will decide on what that task and finish group, whatever task and finish group it is suggesting. And sometimes, obviously, full council, because all we're doing is recommending to Cabinet and Cabinet to full council. So that's quite normal, task and finish groups. It's been the case ever since scrutiny was invented in England here. And I didn't know, as I knew one of the authors of the Scrutiny Hard Nut to Crack, and I've been involved in scrutiny for all those years, both at the Institute of Local Government, the Centre for Public Scrutiny, and elsewhere. What we did was correct. Now, it was a task and finish group with just one particular object, and I thought that's quite a reasonable one, having a matrix, which was like an independent way you look at the attendance that the chair can take. Because if I go back a few years, the bad old days, I would say the 80s and early 90s, there's all sorts of places you could go. I mean, Birkbeck Town Council went to every parish council going, and you couldn't see a reason for it, except there's people just going there and just meeting other members of the chain gang. The chain gang, by the way, was a phrase you spoke quietly into each other. But then it's gone into official documents now, which I think is quite amusing. But so I think it was a reasonable thing. I mean, if Councillor Salter's got any issues with the members of Overview and Scrutiny, didn't ask the right questions, that's fine. He can take that up with each one individually, but I have to reassure him that it was discussed, people were happy with that, and there was that flexibility. That was task item 5 or whatever, which did make that a human aspect of it there, where, okay, you've got to justify why you went to that particular event. So I thought it was quite reasonable, but that's my view.
Okay, it's been recommended to Cabinet, hasn't it? So
yeah.
70.
So 78 is the review of Overview and Scrutiny function at the council, which includes task groups.
Okay.
And things like that. Right, okay.
No,
71, Lichfield District 2050 strategy consultation results, and I'm grateful for the time spent on that particular document, which of course is a living document, and it's up to each individual member of the council to make sure that we pursue that. And now then, at 8:05, I think it was, we got to paddle tennis review. Now this was discussed in February, scrutiny and a full council after that, early last year. But we then spent 41 minutes on there, which is why I had to go into extra time.
Okay.
But there's the work programme.
Yeah.
74, securing an anchor food and beverage tenant for the cinema complex. And at 8:49, that's why I had to move extra time. Oh no, I was told by William actually that you had to, but I isn't plenty of time yet. So 2-3 minutes later, and then we agreed 15 minutes, which meant there was very little time to discuss the item in the as item 76. So 74 was that. 75 was the exclusion of public and press, and 76 was the few minutes there. And I think some people were a bit upset that officers didn't stay behind when they weren't getting paid to answer questions. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Can we take those minutes as received and adopted? Yeah, thank you. Right, we move on. Thank you very much, Councillor Norman. We move on to item 7, the minutes of the Employment Committee. And can I call on councillor Harvey Coggins?
Thank you, Chair. I move that the proceedings of the Employment Committee meeting on the 26th of February 2024 be received and, where necessary, approved and adopted.
Thank you. Do we have a seconder? Councillor Robertson, thank you. So we can take these here by minute. Apologies for absence, blah, 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 minutes of the previous meeting, the pay policy. It's Councillor Woodward. There's a question on the pay policy.
Chair, through you, can I ask Councillor Harvey Coggins for some clarification on two aspects of that pay policy report? It may well be that as she was not in the chair at that meeting, that the Vice Chair of Employment Committee, I think it's Councillor Powell, may be able to help. On the third paragraph on item 4, there's a reference to West Midlands employers being, quote, effectively the trade union body for councils. I'm sure that is a typo, because they're not a trade union body. They're a trade body, but not a trade union body. So possibly that's just something that needs amending slightly. And then I'm sure I'm not the only one who doesn't understand this, but I'll show my ignorance in declaring this. I really don't understand paragraph 5, where it says local and dangerous building allowance. I didn't know there was such a thing as local and dangerous building allowance, and I just wondered if somebody could explain to me what that is, please. Thanks, Chair. Thanks, Councillor Harvey Coggins.
The train. Sorry, Councillor Harvey Coggins. I was just trying to find them.
Thank you, Chair. Yeah, I have had clarification. It's in fact not a trade union, but an employers federation that represents employers, not employees. So that does need amending. And the second point that you made, I've received a little bit of clarification on this. The payments are related to paying an officer to attend out of hours to assess a dangerous building. But I am yet to receive the policy. I'm still awaiting that. So, but I will get that and I will get back to you. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Robertson has and he's allowed to sit down.
Thank you, Chair. If you'll
whisper into the microphone.
If you'll indulge me from addressing you from a sedentary position, I've got very little strength in my voice this evening. I do want to put on record, and I'm sure Councillor Harvey will want to agree with me, that it is excellent that Lichfield District Council has become the first district council in the West Midlands to become an accredited living wage employer. There are in fact only 3 councils in the region that are accredited living wage employers. We've been paying that wage to our employees for a long time. There is additional work that you have to do to go through accreditation around your suppliers and things like that. And I think a lot of times we talk about the soft power and the lobbying that this council can do. And actually, by not only doing the right thing by our staff, but by being proud of that and being very, very forthright and in front of people, we're able to really set that agenda and remind people that anybody who's going to work should be treated well, should be remunerated appropriately. And that's a very positive step for our council to have taken. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you. And then Councillor Evans had a question as well.
A question to the chair on 4th paragraph down regarding the apprenticeship scheme. Have all the apprentices, can I ask, have they all completed their apprenticeships? Have any dropped out? If so, how many? And is there a definitive figure yet as to the number in each age group?
So do you want Councillor Harvey Coggins?
Thank you. Unfortunately, I do not have this information as I was not chair at the time, but I will get that and get it back to you ASAP. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other questions on the Employment Committee minutes? Okay. Can we take these minutes as received and adopted? Right, thank you. We move on then to the Planning Committee and March and April. Can I call on Councillor Marshall?
Thank you, Chair. Could I just preface my comments with one thing? I'm going to say that in something which is redolent of the works of Arthur Conan Doyle and Agatha Christie, we seem to have the strange case of the disappearing minutes. Search as I have, I cannot find the minutes for the 8th of April, and neither can my co-chairman, my vice chairman either. So I do apologise, but I'm not going to include the 8th of April in this because so far I've been unable to trace them. So thank you, Chair. I move that the proceedings of the Planning Committee meeting held on the 4th of March be received and where necessary, approved and adopted. Thank you.
Do we have a seconder for that? Councillor Sharon Taylor. Oh, and Councillor, well, it's all right. So, well, Councillor Ashton. Did you? Rushton, sorry, oh gosh, yes, sorry.
Well, it's quite a similar point because actually I would like to note that it was me in attendance and Councillor Hugh Ashton that put in apologies, but I think that's being swapped around, so we obviously look very similar.
So yeah,
I don't know whether to be offended.
How could we tell you apart? Sorry, that you were there. And
Yes, I was.
the real Councillor Ashton was not. Okay, well, I'm glad someone else, Mrs. District and City Councillors mixed up. No, that's right. So, and I think, sorry, Councillor Taylor.
Thank you. I was also in attendance for the record on that one.
Oh, right. Yeah, you're not down at all, are you? No, okay. So we need to look into the missing minutes, but there's a bit of a problem with these minutes, also the attendance. But we'll look into that then. Oh yeah, they'll be submitted to the council in May. Then, so think we've sorted out who was there and who wasn't. No declaration minutes, 39 declaration, 40 was the minutes, then 41 planning applications, the Blackbrook Hall, and then the others. They must exist because I thought I've read a later minute. Perhaps they're online. Yeah, or perhaps I watched it on YouTube. I'm so sad. Nostalgic for planning committee. Because I think the Blackbrook Hall was discussed, wasn't it? Your next meeting, yeah. So I can remember a planning meeting that hasn't been ever minute. Okay, yeah. So the very short. Can we take these minutes as received and adopted, and we'll find the other ones will be found and looked at later. Thank you. So item 9 is the minutes of the audit committee, and in the absence of Councillor, call on Councillor Whitehouse.
Thank you, Chair. I move that the proceedings of the audit committee held on the 21st of March 2024 be received and where necessary approved and adopted.
And I think is Councillor Vernon going to?
I second that.
Thank you very much. So again, we can take these. Apologies. Everyone was there. Just checking. Yeah. Declarations of interest minutes. Then 48 is the internal audit plan, charter and protocol. Points on that. 49, review of the effective. Councillor Woodward.
Thanks, Chair. Can I thank Councillor Ho in his absence through Councillor Whitehouse for adjourning the meeting at that point as recorded there. It became obvious that not all members of the committee had the same document that we're being required to discuss, which raises a general question. I don't know whether it's the chair or vice chair of audit, but it's an opportunity for me to make this point to the governance team and perhaps to the leader. Members access their reports through various different platforms. So it may be that they access through email, it may be that they use app or they go directly onto the website, and some members really print off themselves. And it makes it very difficult then, if we don't know that they've all got exactly the same documents. And this is a minor issue, relatively speaking, but it just flags up to me that, and it's along the lines of that trust that we're all getting the same documents. It flags up to me that we just need to, sorry, we just need to look a bit more carefully to ensure all of those documents are in line. So perhaps Councillor Whitehouse and Councillor Pullen and others can just follow this up and make sure that however members access their reports, they are all getting exactly the same information. Thanks, Chair.
Thank you. Okay, that can be taken on board, can't it? Yeah.
Yes, Chair, and I thank you, Councillor Wood. We'll certainly look at that. It's a very important point for consistency and accuracy.
So I think that was in relation to the review of the effectiveness, and there's item 50 or minute 50 was an overview of outstanding audit recommendations, and then 51 was the work programmes. So is there anything more? So can we take those minutes for the audit committee as received and adopted? Thank you. Then item 10 is the regulatory and licensing committee. And I think I'm going to call on Councillor Salter because the chair was ill.
Thank you, Chair. I move that the proceedings of the Regulatory and Licensing Committee meeting held on the 26th of March 2024 be received and, where necessary, approved and adopted. And if I may, Chair, just to complete the minutes with the fact that the meeting itself finished at 18:43.
Okay, not a time, not yes, okay, not a time, not specified. Can I have a seconder for those? Councillor Checkland, thank you very much. So routine matters, then item 4 was the first substantive one, the taxi policy update. Councillor Ray.
Yes, thank you, Chair. Yes, I've spoken about the taxi policy before in this meeting because it is a really important service for our community. A lot of people rely upon it. And I just want to thank the committee as well as the officers for the work they're doing in updating that policy. And the point I just wanted to sort of mention, and perhaps I can write to the committee so that they can consider these views, is about cross-border hiring. In the age of apps and using hiring taxis online, it is a very fluid marketplace. But there is something our council, all licensing councils and taxis can do, which is ensure there is proper enforcement for taxis that come into our district and pick up off the street. The taxis are allowed to do that off the rank, are those that pay a license fee to our council, and we need to protect them. It's their business, it provides an important service. So it's a point that we as a council need to look at, are we putting enough resource into enforcement to protect a really important service for our community? And so I will write to the committee on that point. Thank you.
Thanks, Chair. Just if I may very quickly come back on item 4, if I'm speaking on behalf of the chairman himself, the committee would be very happy to receive questions along those lines. It's a very important issue. Thank you for raising it.
Yeah, this is a really important piece in the whole Birmingham Road site jigsaw. It provides site-specific design requirements for any potential development on the site. So it basically ensures that potential developers will have to provide a design-led scheme that's appropriate for this gateway site into our city centre. The code was developed over 18 months of community and stakeholder engagement. It reflects the feedback from this engagement and developed. It's a code, not a guide. That's really important. It provides very specific parameters on what must be factored into any design. You'll note in the code the various musts and shoulds. The design code is structured so that it neatly fits into the current area-wide code that we're also developing, both of which follow the National Model Design Code principles. It's an important report. It's an exciting step forward for Lichfield, and I hope members share my enthusiasm for it. I move the recommendations in the report and reserve my right to speak. Thank you.
Thank you, Chair. I was on the cusp of offering to second it, but I think the custom and practice is that the controlling group seconds things, so I held back from that because I very much support this code. It's very clear, and having been the chair of the task group on the city centre for a number of years now, I completely support it. Sorry, my voice is now going as well. That particular thing I'd like to commend it in is on page 23 of the report itself, page 73 in our papers, item 5.2, and that is housing mix. And it's particularly pleasing to see that affordable housing will be on that site, will be pepper potted around the site, and will be indistinguishable from any other housing on that site. That's something I've championed throughout my career. If you want real proper mixed communities, that's the kind of thing we need to do. And it's pleasing that that is there in black and white as both musts. But I just worry slightly. Item 2.2 says we're going to give delegated authority to the leader of the council and the chief executive to make minor changes. And I would hope that that would not be considered a minor change and will be kept and won't be kind of brushed aside in the pursuit of other aims and objectives. So very much welcome this report, welcome the design code. It will give us control over what happens within the city centre, give us good quality housing, good quality design, a nice environment for people to live and work and enjoy. And it's been really fully consulted on over a number of years, and people have listened to that consultation. So I think I very much commend it. Thank you.
Thank you, Chair. I felt like I couldn't pass up the opportunity just to sing the praises of not only councillors here who work very hard from right across the chamber, but in particular Create Streets, the not-for-profit organisation that have helped us come up with this design code. It seems a long time ago that we first contacted them and asked them if they'd be interested in working with us on creating this design code. Absolutely over the moon with that. Fundamentally, I trust the public in the sort of buildings and design that they want to see come forward in Lichfield. We have had too many inappropriate developments in Lichfield where the design doesn't mesh with that of Lichfield City and even wider across the district as well. Having so many responses from the public throughout the course of this design code, whether that's online or in person, I believe has allowed this design code to not be something that just we as councillors want to see, but something genuinely that residents want to see on that site. And I think that ability to bring the community with us on this is an absolute testament to the work that councillors and Create Streets and officers of this council have done. Absolutely overjoyed that we've got this in place. That now unlocks the ability for that site to come forward and for us to be able to market that site to a developer, safe in the knowledge not only do we retain the planning powers over the site still, but we've got a robust design code in place to ensure that we exercise an element of control over what comes forward on that site. So yeah, really happy to see all these parts of it come forward. Thank you, Chair.
Yes, thank you very much, Chair. I very much welcome this as well. And I think it's a real boost for the city of Lichfield and for the district of Lichfield, of course. Very often on a nice Saturday morning, if I've got the opportunity, I'll have a quick walk around Lichfield. And my favourite place, has to be said, is the Cathedral Close. And every time I walk around Lichfield and the historic parts of it and down by the Angel Croft, I can't help thinking that we are extremely lucky to live in such a beautiful city. And my mother was a Lichfieldian, and she very much was aware of the fact that when they built the precinct, which I think is classed as Baker's Lane now, they demolished some beautiful old historic buildings, and she never really forgave the council all those years ago in the 1960s. I think we've learned an awful lot in the last 60 odd years. And I think most of us here, if not all of us, wish to preserve the beautiful architecture and the lovely ambience of this city. And so anything which we can do in the modern era to preserve that has to be a good thing. And I think that this design code goes a long way towards perhaps celebrating the beauty of the architecture and this lovely city of ours in Lichfield. So I think it's a great move forward. And I really would like to thank all of those people who've worked so hard to bring this report to fruition. Thank you, Chair.
Yeah, move rapidly to a vote. All those in favour? Anyone against? No, so that's carried. Okay, great. Can move on to item 12, the update to the Constitution and Shadow Cabinet.
That's me, isn't it, Chair?
Yeah.
Thank you.
Sorry, yeah. Yeah.
Thank you, Chair. This is an update or proposed update to the Constitution. Chair, there's recommendations at 2.1 and 2.2 that the consideration be given to formalising shadow cabinet arrangements as set out in Table 1, and that the Constitution then be updated to reflect any changes agreed. Chair, clearly the Constitution of this council, or the makeup of this, I shouldn't use the word constitution in that respect, the makeup of the political makeup of this organisation changed fundamentally in May. That's given rise to a shadow cabinet, multiple shadow cabinets, should I say, to be formed. And it's really important, I think, as many of us would agree, that we regularise how we engage as different political parties, sometimes with mutual ambitions, sometimes with very different ambitions, but doing it in a way that's efficient, uses best possible use of officer time, and in a way that allows us to disagree in an efficient way as possible. And so I'm pleased to bring this update to the Constitution.
Thank you. I think Councillor Woodward is going to second this.
Thank you, Chair. I'm grateful for the opportunity. It keeps going off. Somebody's got it in for me. It's a very different council that was elected in May last year from previous councils, and the recognition now of the value of a shadow cabinet within the Constitution, I think is really quite important. To thank the members of my shadow cabinet for the work that they do. I think where there are some disagreements, they can disagree agreeably, as the saying goes. It is that commitment, that we said right from the outset that we want to work together towards the best outcomes for the residents of our district, and this actually enshrines that within the Constitution, so I very much welcome it. Thanks, Chair.
Thank you, Chair. I move the membership of committees as the table at agenda item number 13. Thank you.
Yes, Chair, I do. It gives me great pleasure to second this proposal. Thank you.
Yeah, sorry. Yeah, that's all right. Okay, any comments or discussion on this? Okay, I think we can again move to a vote then. All those in favour? Anyone against? No, okay. Item 14 is questions. And the questions have been circulated. Questions and answers have been circulated by email. And the first question is Councillor Ashton. Would you like to, Councillor Sylvester Hall? Councillor Ashton, do you have a supplement question?
No supplement.
Thank you. The second one is Councillor Cross to the leader, Councillor Pullen. Councillor Cross, do you have a supplementary question?
Yes, please, Chair, I do. Thank you. I have the increases which our leader has listed up here. This confirms increases as per in line with the officers. It doesn't address the 20% increase recommended by the consultants in 2022, which was 2 years ago. 2026 is too late and too close to the next elections. So that's not likely to happen for us members, is it? When are we going to address this 20% that was recommended that we should have 2 years ago?
Okay, thank you, Councillor Pullen.
Councillor Cross is right, of course, that this council chose to not take it.
Councillor Bradger to Councillor Farrell. Do you have a supplementary? Yeah.
Yes, thank you, Chair. Thank you for the helpful response. Most private landlords are good, but where there are problems, it's good to see that there's a way of these being taken up. Could I further ask for a breakdown of the categories of the problems, particularly those related to damp, to be circulated to councillors after the meeting? So yes, it's the quick answer.
Okay then, and move on to item 15, which is securing an anchor food and beverage tenant for the cinema complex. Before I before we start the full debate in open session, I need to just the details of the precise arrangements with the botanist. And the second, I was going to say the alchemist as a joke, but or you know, McDonald's or whatever. But anyway, now the second thing is that in the process of due diligence, the council consulted other councils whose advice was given in confidence. So naming the other councils means we have to do whatever we do and go into private session. But with those cautions, can I call on Councillor Smith to speak on this item and to propose the recommendations?
Thank you, Chair. Yeah, I was going to use the terms preferred operator a lot, but I suppose I don't need to do that now. But anyway, I might still do that. Yeah. I don't want to bore the council with all the details because it's been through ONS and cabinet and a number of different task groups, etc. However, just in a brief summary, this paper is asking the council for the additional funding required to attract an anchor F&B operator to the cinema development. Chair, why is it important to get a really good, excellent, nationwide, well-known anchor tenant? Again, the correct F&B anchor is essential to provide the draw needed for both customers, residents within our district, and people outside of our district as well, equally as importantly, and just as importantly, other operators of different types of business. As you mentioned, Chair, in the confidential piece, we talk about another council that's had the exact same experience and gone down this route already, and they've had some fabulous results in terms of that draw of what this operator can provide to other operators. We've done a number of studies. Oh, okay, I've mentioned that bit already. The operator in question is an award-winning, very successful and popular national brand. We now know what they are, so but that's still very true, that statement, which is great. In terms of looking at alternatives, I was well aware that one of the questions asked in ONS, also by phone calls I've had from the opposition and my own group. A really bad question, actually. Well, we've just gone down the route with this operator. Have we looked at alternatives? Now, Evolve Estates, our partner in doing this development, have got a vast experience of doing these in other parts of the country. So they studied Lichfield, they studied the operators, they looked at the financials, and they've deemed quite strongly that the botanist, is by far the best fit for Lichfield, both in terms of the draw and this so-called halo effect, and also in terms of the financials. I think the monitoring officer has sent out details of the two alternative options that Evolve Estates looked at, and we can see that we're kind of in the mid-range in terms of the upfront investment that we as a landlord need to make. So one of them was less, that gave us a lower base rent. Another one was a higher amount we'd have to put up front, but again the base rent wasn't that different. So I have full confidence in our partners Evolve Estates that they've looked at this into the analysis. There's also two appendices to both the confidential and this paper. One by Aspinall Verde, which looks at how are we making the right route financially, looks at the viability of this, and that gave good results. There's also by Kay, which looks at the sort of the benefits Lichfield of this operation. All those details are in there, both in this paper and confidential. Finally, Chair, I've done an update to the recommendation, to part of the recommendation, to make clear a point about potential budgetary change. This question came out of ONS, and again, a very valid question. And I believe the office sent this out in an email. But for clarity, Part A, I'll just read out the recommendation. Part A, either to allocate the first 1.7 million of capital receipts generated from the sale of land in the Birmingham Road site to fund the capital contribution and negate the creation of a need for borrowing. So in other words, what that means is we will repay the internal borrowing by taking capital receipt from the sale of land on the Birmingham Road site, or part of that capital receipt, which is obviously the preferred option. Part B just covers off in case that's not possible for whatever reasons, and that states in the event the capital receipt does not reach the 1.7 level, or the council does not approve its application to this project, to approve the identification of budgetary savings to maintain the levels of approved risk headroom, in other words, our regular RTFS, the initial
revenue provision and loss investment incurred at 3.5%. When we're saying internal borrowing, we're taking 1.7 million from investments in other areas, other councils, other financial institutions, and we're moving that temporarily into this project, hopefully to be repaid by capital receipt from sale of the Birmingham Road site. But obviously, if that doesn't occur, then we've got a revenue gap of whatever we're making in those investments for that 1.7 million. That's exactly what that's referring to. Now, of course, in the paper we do talk about a revenue that we do gain, of course, from the investment in the Botanist deal. I think that's about all I wanted to say. I do very much hope that the council recommendation. I do strongly believe not on the economy at this. I so propose a recommendation reserve my right to speak at the end of the debate. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you. Can I just check that there's a seconder for the recommendation? Councillor Sylvester Hall.
Yes, Chair, I absolutely second this proposal and also reserve my right should I need it.
Thank you. Then I saw Councillor Taylor wanted to speak, and then Councillor Woodward.
Yeah, thank you,
Councillor
Chair. I think we have an issue with messaging here as to how we talk to our residents in the Lichfield district. A quick read of any of the comments on Lichfield Live relating to this development, and particularly to this further spend, as I believe it was originally referred to in one of the articles, will tell you that our residents don't understand what we're doing. As passionate and as accurate as the council member's speech just now was, I don't think it will have broken through the basic tenet of what we're doing here. We are investing in our district. We're investing in a scheme to bring money and shoppers to our district, and that will benefit employers that are in that units directly. It will benefit customers. It will benefit surrounding businesses because we will have a greater footfall. Why, one of the comments I read today, why, if the Botanist is such a good business, why do we need to give them 1.7 million? Well, the fact is they know they're a good business. They know that if they set up a unit here, if they set up a restaurant here, they know it will bring more people, and therefore we can charge higher rents on the units around it. That is why they demand 1.7 million from us as part of that. But it's not a spend, it is an investment. And I'm grateful to Lichfield Live for noting that and using that terminology. It is an investment. I am not supporting a 1.7 million spend on fixtures and fittings. I will support a 1.7 million pound investment in bringing more trade to the area and improving jobs and improving the economy. Thank you.
Thank you. I think Councillor Woodward was next, then Councillor Ray.
Thanks, Chair. Can I congratulate you on being the first member of this council to refer to the Botanist in public session? That's a real coup.
I hope I get a free,
so well done
free
on that.
dinner or whatever, biophilic experience, or whatever they call it.
Can I thank Councillor Smith for the clarification and the amendments to the recommendation? That's really helpful, and I also certainly welcome the progress of these reports as they've gone through overview and scrutiny and so on, and the additional information we've got on the council report tonight, specifically the Aspinall Verde report and the CADA report. I mean, it seems to me, and to echo what Mr. Taylor just said, this is about investment. It's not just investment in the city centre, though. It's investment for the district. And I think some of those economic benefits and potential of those economic benefits are outlined in both the Aspinall Verde report on page 4 and also on the gross value added references on the CADA report, the first page of the CADA report. councils and council leaders, councillors generally, it's a case of you're damned if you do and you're damned if you don't. But I'm certainly convinced in discussions that I've had over what feels to be a long period now that this has been discussed, and feedback I've got from other Labour colleagues across the country, that this is really going to be a great benefit to the public of the district. That Friarsgate site has been a bit of a running sore for a very long time, and my microphone's gone off again. And we don't have a crystal ball. We don't absolutely know what's to transpire from that side. But I think unless we take that leap of faith and say we're going to put our eggs into this particular basket, we're going to miss out. The feedback I've got back from other colleagues across the country is, Lichfield, you're very, very lucky to have attracted an organisation like the Botanist to your city centre, and you know a relatively small city like is going to have a national brand as part of our economic regeneration. On page 5 of the Aspinall Verde report, it says that the council is able now to have more confidence in the income, and it also refers to more confidence on the return for investment. So the fact that colleagues are saying to us, we've got that confidence in terms of both income and the return on investment, I think is very reassuring. I said earlier on when we were talking about the strategy 2050 that I'm ambitious for this district and for its residents, and I think that's probably echoed across the chamber. Let's show some ambition and let's all get behind this particular proposal. Thanks, Chair.
Thank you. Councillor Ray next.
Thank you, Chair, and thank you, members. Members, I think we need to stand back and we need to think about what we're being asked to decide upon tonight. So we've agreed to, as a council, to put into the cinema £5.3 million, that was the initial decision, £3.5 million when we decided on the buyout clause pre-Christmas, and now we're being asked to put another £1.7 million into the cinema. That is £10.5 million into one project. I fully support the cinema, and as a group, we fully support the cinema. It will be good for our district, I accept that. But I have two main concerns about this decision. The first point is the opportunity cost. 1.7 is a lot of money, a lot of public money. We've talked in this chamber about setting up a housing development company so we can build ourselves as a council affordable housing. We've talked about investing in Burntwood, in our villages. That money could assist there. When we do develop the Birmingham Road site, we want really good, high quality public realm, and that money could be used for that. And secondly, I have real concerns about the lack of proper review of the options. As I say, as we know, we're talking about £1.7 million of public money. And essentially what's happened is our joint venture partner, Evolve, has put one option to the council. And that involves a £1.7 million investment. And there's been no other really detailed, proper analysis of the other options. And I say that's not right, and I won't be voting to support this decision tonight. Councillor Smith, in the papers talk about the offer on the table is a stellar option for Lichfield. And it might well be. It might well be. But we have a duty to our residents to properly analyse other options. And as we know, there are others. As we know, Everyman, the cinema operator, has 8 other preferred food and beverage operators. The one in front of us is just one. And I'm afraid, as a public body, that is not enough, that is not proper analysis of those other options. And when ONS, I asked, I asked why there hadn't been further negotiations with other operators at ONS. I was told that the negotiations have been run by Evolve as our joint venture partner. And they are a business, and commercially, a business can't operate sort of a number of negotiations concurrently all at the same time. I accept that. That's a decision a business can make. But the reality is they haven't conducted any other negotiations. And it is okay for Revolve as a commercial business to take that stance, just to go with one option. But the £1.7 million, let's remember, is not their money. It's our residents' money. And we have a duty to make sure it's properly scrutinised. And also, members, please note this. It's important to appreciate if we vote this down tonight, the cinema doesn't fall. I spoke to the chief executive yesterday and he confirmed that, and the leader can confirm that. It might mean some delay in the cinema coming forward while other negotiations with other food and beverage operators take place. But I say for the sake of making sure that this investment of £1.7 million is right, we need to make that decision, vote this down and then explore other options. And Councillor Smith, he referred to some information that was sent around about all other options last night. They were very scant. There was no detail around those scenarios. I'm afraid that was all very too little, too late. And it doesn't represent any proper scrutiny, proper due diligence or alternative options other than the one that's put in front of us. My view is that in reality, there are probably other operators amongst every man's list of preferred food and beverage providers who would come to Lichfield for no way near the £1.7 million that we are being asked to commit. And we need to know that. And that's why we need to vote this down and then have a proper research or proper decision made looking at other options. Members, as I've said, I support the cinema. And I think as most of us in this council, we support the cinema. It will be good for the district. But this involves £1.7 million of our residents' money. And the decision has not been, in my view, properly scrutinised. I feel what I'm saying is what a lot of members in this room are thinking. And I say to you, some of you will be under pressure from your group leaders, but I ask you to consider this decision very carefully, as I know you will. In summary, 1.7 is a considerable amount of public money for this council. We'll be asked to commit, which we could use elsewhere for very good, important purposes in our district. And the decision needs to be made properly. And I'm afraid my judgment is that it has not been made properly. And to reiterate that point, members, a vote tonight against this and not to support this does not mean the cinema fails. It means some delay, and then we go forward with a proper analysis of some alternative options. For those reasons, members, I will be voting against this, and I urge members to do the same.
Thank you very much. I think I've got a long list. I think it's Councillor Trent next.
Thank you, Chair. I just have a couple of points and a question for Councillor Smith. Excuse me. And I emphasise as well that I'm firmly in favour of the cinema development, and I look forward to it happening. But just a couple of extra points. I do regarding paragraph 1.1 of the report, the recommendations, and part B of the second bullet point. I also welcome that clarification where it refers to budgetary savings, because what we really want to avoid is there being any impact on council services from this, and I welcome that reassurance that there won't be an impact on council services, whatever happens there. My question was about paragraph 3.37 and 3.8 of the report. There's an indication there that we're awaiting legal advice and a review by external auditors in connection with this 1.7 million. I just wondered if there was any update on that and whether there's a timescale for that, whether that might delay matters. So I'd be grateful for information on that. My only other point was about 3.29 of the report. And this touches upon a similar point to Councillor Ray. It is recognised there that it's important that we as councillors taking this decision have confidence that this represents best value. As Councillor Ray has said, 1.7 million is a significant sum of money, and best value is a really important consideration for this council. I'm glad that it's been recognised, that the importance of that. And I do welcome some of the extra information that's been coming in recent days, very late in the day, but I do welcome there's been some more information on that. But nevertheless, for me, a key issue on whether it's best value is whether we've fully explored the alternative options in the matter. That's touched on in the report right at the end, as all of our reports. It ends with a box about alternative options, and it says there the council could seek alternative F&B operators to complement the Everyman Cinema brand. But I would say, Chair, that it's important that isn't just part of the usual template, but that we have actually properly explored alternative options. This brand may well be excellent. I think most of us would think it is a very good brand we're talking about, but have we properly explored the alternatives? I think we'd say we need to have confidence that we've done that and that we've had full information on the alternatives before voting this kind of recommendation through. I'd suggest that is very important for all of us to consider before we vote on this point tonight. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you. I think it was Councillor Rushton next.
Thank you, Chair. I just want to make very few quick points. The first one being last full council, we were told during the planning committee meeting minutes that we weren't scrutinising the cinema development well enough. And I think that's a lesson learned to the whole chamber, but we need to be scrutinising this development as best as we can. And we are talking about a £1.7 million investment. That's a huge amount of money, and that is our residents' money. And I felt rather disappointed at the last ONS committee meeting, but it felt very rushed. At the end, there was only 7 minutes for private session, and I hope that that's a lesson learnt going forward, but we scrutinise this development to the best ability, because that's what our residents deserve. But I also want to just echo the points made by Councillor Ray and Trent, that I take each vote very seriously, and I have my residents in mind every single time that I vote on a matter here. And I can't go to my residents after this and say with my whole heart that I support this, because we simply haven't investigated and looked into every single option possible. And we are talking about their money that we're spending. We're talking about their taxpayers' money during a time that is really hard. And I think that we need to be spending sensibly and investing sensibly. And when we're not being told all the information because it's being withheld from us, I just don't feel comfortable voting for the very first option laid on the table. And that is because we could be having 6 or 7 other operators who are just as good, but we have no information about.
Sorry, Councillor Pullen.
Chair, as a point of information, perhaps Councillor Rushton would like to articulate which or what information precisely he feels is being withheld from him, because I don't think anybody around this chamber at any point through this process could say that any information is being withheld from them. And I've gone to great lengths to ensure that our officers have been put at the disposal of every councillor within this chamber. So if Councillor Rushton is saying that information has been withheld, then I think this chamber ought to know precisely what information he believes has been withheld, or he ought to retract that comment.
I'll take back my word of withheld, but there are other options on the table that I don't think that we've properly explored. Carrying on with my point, I don't think the way a business runs is going with the first option laid on the table. You look at other options available as well, and I certainly don't think that that's a way that a council should run, a way that a business or a council who uses public money should run. So that's why I'll be voting against tonight.
Thank you very much, Councillor Rushton. The next one I had was Councillor Cox. Can you remember?
Thank you, Chairman. Without causing disruption, I'd like to remind Councillor Ray that one of his members voted against the cinema.
Well,
and today he's saying that they're united.
Well,
and that is all very well. But I firmly believe that we have before us a paper that has gone through due diligence. And it is a paper that can be recommended to this council to provide a food and beverage outlet of the top order, as I would call it. I also did my research on the botanist, and I have to say, having not really understood who they were to begin with, I was completely compelled with the offer that they give. And I think this is only going to be good news for Lichfield, and I might add the Lichfield district, because I think those outlying villages will absolutely enjoy the ability to have that eat out cinema experience that many other places have, and yet we haven't. And I share Councillor Woodward's comment on ambition. I think the council has to have ambition. It obviously has to deliver something that is deliverable. I think this is something that is. I note that on the risk assessment, that there is no high risk in what we are doing. It is clearly something that we can do and will do. And I would urge this council to support the motion, because I think this is only good news. Negativity breeds negativity. Let's have some positivity and get that ambition that this council is showing, because quite frankly, I think what will win is the positivity and that ambition. And I welcome the report in full. Thank you.
Thank you. I had Councillor Norman, if there's anything
Thank you, Chair. The Everyman Theatre, I mean, why do we agree that one? There must be other theatres out there, or cinemas that can actually be looked at. I'm not sure what happened there, but I know we've gone past that stage now. I do get a bit annoyed when saying the lack of scrutiny. 41 minutes on the paddle tennis, so it only left us with a few more minutes left to talk about the items that some members think are more important, and I thought they're more important as well. I've not had any questions not answered by officers. I've been particularly impressed by the Section 151 officer, who we've had reassurance from all the way through. So at the end of the day, you have to make a decision. Gone are the old days of councils, having a big project and they're all failing. We need experts. We need commercial experts on this, and that's what the advice is that we've been following. At least that's what I've been listening to and following. I mean, 2038, we should have a Burntwood town centre. That's in the Burntwood strategy. And so, but if you're just going to wait for a commercial company just to come along and build it, well, we can wait forever. We have to do this. We have to put in public money. We have to encourage an investment within the area, as Councillor Taylor has said earlier on. So I haven't got any problems with this. I understand why people might be having cold feet, but don't talk about scrutiny when you've had the chance to scrutinise it at a previous meeting. And there's always an opportunity to email the Chief Executive and ask us questions there. So as far as I'm concerned, we have to make it a success in Lichfield. We have to bite the bullet and go for it. We've had the advice, we've had the guidance, we've had the assurance from the Section 151 officer, and I'm supporting this motion. Thank you.
Thank you. I've still got, I think, 5 councillors down who want to speak, as well as I've got 6 councillors down who want to speak, as well as I think Councillor Smith has been asked a couple of precise questions. But I could ask people, perhaps if they're saying just that they agree with someone else, they might want to. But anyway, Councillor Farrell was next on my list. I've probably forgotten.
Thank you, Chair. I couldn't have put it better than Councillor Taylor, really. This is an investment. We need to think about that. We're investing in the future of our city and the wider district. I live in Fazeley. I'm excited about coming to the Botanist. I just want to take umbrage to what the Lib Dems have been saying tonight. On the 20th of April 2023, just before the local elections, they said on their Facebook page, vote for change. They put through some letterboxes recently. Spring 2024, you voted for change. Change is happening, they say. Now, I don't know about you, but I wouldn't want to be there on the first night of the Botanist having a meal with the Lib Dems, because while we've eaten and out the door, they'll still be deciding what starter to have. Now, I must say that, yes, there's lots of different restaurants we can use in the world, lots of different cinemas, as Councillor Norman said, but I'm pretty confident that the officers and the cabinet colleagues around me have done their due diligence If we keep waiting and waiting and waiting, no change will happen. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Cross, I think you were next.
Thank you, Chair. I am quite concerned about this as well. It'd be great to have this company. I know this company very well. I've worked with them with my business in the past, fitting out with them. But this is a lot of money, and it's not very clear what this money is going to be spent on. I've looked through these details quite closely, and I cannot really understand what this money is going to be spent on. And if it's going to be spent on the fit out, which would be very luxurious and very, very nice, are we going to have a queue of other retailers coming into the city that's also going to want help with the fit out? We've got 2 or 3 shops which we're going to bulldoze down in the near future. They're going to have to move. Are we going to look after them in the same context and let them have a dip in the pot for some money to help with the fit out? I doubt whether that's going to happen. So if we're going to treat these people and help them with fitting out their retail outlet, then we've got to consider doing it with others as well. Thank you.
Thank you. I think Councillor Strachan.
Thank you, Chair. I will keep this very quick because quite a few of these points have been picked up by other members. Firstly, to say I'm actually quite pleased that the name was published this afternoon, however accidentally, because it means that I don't have to stand here tonight and say, this is a £1.7 million investment in something really exciting, but you've got to trust me on what it is, because I think that's a little bit cheeky. And so I'm delighted to be able to say that this is a plan to attract the botanists to Lichfield. And Councillor Taylor in his speech has actually managed to steal quite a lot of my thunder. So can I thank him, accuse him of reading my notes, but say, listen to what he said, because he gets it. This is exactly the nature of the commercial transaction that we are undertaking. Part of it is fit out, because it's our building and we have to get it fit to get in. Part of it is an element of rent reduction to get the business on its feet, trading and in a state of good health. So that is how the £1.7 million is set up. And we'll get a very detailed breakdown to you, Councillor Cross, if you'd like, from Anthony a little bit later on. This has also been quite a long time coming. In fact, I think it was probably shortly before the district council elections that this was first mentioned, certainly to me. And so it's disingenuous of anybody to suggest that this is a snap decision. There has been a huge amount of work happening behind the scenes, and I thank our officers who've negotiated on our behalf for that. I actually couldn't quite believe it when it was first mentioned to me, because I thought, my goodness me, I walk past their prime Birmingham site virtually every day. I can't believe that such a high-profile and very successful business would ever come to leafy Lichfield, the small town where we never quite managed to get anything to happen. But it feels like this time we've got momentum behind it. There's a thrust, and it really is going to happen. And at the time, I then thought, actually, that's quite a lot of money. Chair, in the context of true place shaping, which is what this is, I would suggest the £1.7 million is actually relatively small beer. In fact, there are various different funding routes, and 2 are identified in the recommendation. This actually is evolving into an amazing opportunity at relatively low financial risk, given the financial clout of this council, who are perhaps stepping slightly out of line in being in the financial position we're in, given what's happening elsewhere in the sector. This district council is actually stepping forwards and truly putting our money where our mouth is and shaping the district of Lichfield. I was a little bit disappointed to hear some of the comments from the bench behind me, particularly where it relates to the options appraisal, because Councillor Smith in opening dealt with 2 of the other options, and although we didn't deal with specifics because we're trying to do as much as we possibly can in open session, a comprehensive options appraisal has taken place, but it's taken place within Evolve Estates. And Chair, that is the nature of a joint venture. Our joint venture partners are experts in the field, carry out the assessments on our behalf and make recommendations. We bring financial clout and a very large amount of land, including that big building over there, which I would quite like to see filled, because it's not before time that we actually brought this forwards. And to hear statements from the bench behind me saying, well, we should delay this further, we should delay this further, frankly doesn't surprise me, because it's a bench that tried to scrutinise paddle tennis 11 months after the point of decision.
but further disappoints me because this is the opportunity of a lifetime to bring not one in The Botanist, but two in Everyman Cinemas, nationally leading businesses to this district, and then reaping that opportunity to be able to reinvest it elsewhere in the district and bring it forwards. And so, Chair, I really am, I'm sorry for the Liberal Democrats because I think they'll look back and see what a missed opportunity this is to support this truly transformative scheme. And Chair, for the benefit of posterity, can I call for a named vote?
Okay, right. Still, I've noted Councillor Ray probably doesn't, but Councillor Marshall was next.
I know it's all relative, Chairman, Chair, sorry, but I will be brief and we'll be quick. I really do appreciate the critique which was given by Councillor Taylor. I think he encapsulated so many of the very positive arguments for this scheme. And I think he said it extremely well and summed up all of the benefits that that project is likely to bring to this city. I think if we want to really drill down to I was going to use a well-known term there, but I'm not going to now. If we drill down to the bare facts, if you look at 332, the advice commission from Aspinall Verde was to evidence that the proposed financial terms and the wider regenerative benefits of attracting an operator of this calibre offset the initial investment required by the council as part of the joint venture with Evolve. Now, I think that says everything we need to know about this project and the way forward that we are proposing here tonight for this £1.7 million investment. I have not scrutinised this to any extent, I have to say, but my overview is, no, I haven't scrutinised it to anything like the extent that our officers have and many of the cabinet will have done as well. But I have to say that in overview, this is a wonderful opportunity for Lichfield. It really is. As we've said, it's amalgamating two nationally reputable companies of very high profile, and to bring them together in this small city of Lichfield, I think is propitious in the extreme, and I welcome it with open arms, and I shall certainly be voting for this motion.
Thank you.
Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Councillor Marshall. Councillor Braga.
Thank you, Chair. An important part of the prosperity of Lichfield district is the success of attracting visitors to a vibrant and attractive city centre. However, when I first heard about the additional investment, I was very sceptical and had a similar reaction to some of the Liberal Democrats who've spoken. But after discussion with colleagues and researching and finding out more information, I now believe that this investment will greatly benefit Lichfield City and, in fact, Lichfield District as a whole. So I would urge people to support.
Thank you. Councillor Robertson.
Thank you, Chair. I will again stay sedentary if at all possible. Before I start on some of the substantive points that I want to raise, now that we've had the botanist out in public, I will raise a point which I've raised in private on a couple of occasions, but for the purpose of the minutes and the purposes of the press and the public who are listening at home. With this development, we are now looking at a high-end cinema operator, which is going to be at a higher price point, and we are now looking at the botanist, which is a higher-end, high price point food and beverage operator. Now, I've said this again, I've had assurances from the cabinet this is being considered, but one of the things we absolutely must not do is create a development at the top of Bakers Lane, which is exclusionary on the basis of cost. We are a district council for the entirety of our district. Not everybody in our district is as financially well off as everybody else. And we do need to make sure that as those other food and beverage units come through, that they are appropriately priced so that that area is accessible to everybody. So I will put that on the record now. To come to the substantive points that I did want to raise, I do want to talk about Appendixes C and D, or Appendices C and D, which were released today.
Are they, I think, is that all?
That's all in public. They're published on the website.
Okay.
Yeah. Now, those appendices came out very late. It's not really an example of how to do governance well. I'm aware there may be external drivers of that, but there are issues with members being presented with so much detailed information so late in the day in order to make us make an informed decision. Having said that, I have had the opportunity today to be able to get into those appendices and be able to pull them out and to look into them in detail. So the first point on Appendix C, there are effectively, Appendix C is effectively in three parts. The first one relates to market rents. Now, the document makes clear that there is no direct comparator for a business of this size and of this type in Lichfield City, and therefore there will automatically be an error about deciding exactly what is a market rent. Oh, it's back on. I'll get another one ready just in case. There isn't that direct comparator, so there will be an error in deciding where that appropriate market rent fits. However, fortunately, the number that has come out is close enough to the middle of where that error is going to be that it's very unlikely, in my opinion, that should there be any changes that we're unable to measure, that we're going to see any statistically significant divergence from that. So I am reassured by the information that is there that the market rate, the rates which we'll be applying, the rents that we'll be applying, are sufficiently close to market rent to assuage my concerns on that point. The second point within the Aspinall Verde appendix is about the initial rate of return. Now, this is a really crucial one because actually we want to be seeing those investing here replenish. Now, I actually have some concerns about some of the calculations that are being used there. I actually would have liked to have seen a minimum scenario rather than set at exactly what Council A achieved. I'd actually personally, it would be more prudent to have a couple of 3% less than Council A achieved so that we've got a better baseline. However, again, when the results come out, what we're being suggested there is far in excess of what a lot of our other strategic investments are doing across the council. So even if those numbers were changed and it were to drop to around 5 or 6% to 9% and the window be wider, we would still be achieving a better rate of return than we do on a lot of our other investments. This spend, it just came through as an investment, would probably be agreed by this council. Now, obviously, I don't have a crystal ball, I can't guarantee that, but earlier on, agreed that because of some changes to one of the international financial reporting standards, that we would reduce some of our strategic investments, which perform less well than this is expected to. Now, that creates actually a revenue pressure. That creates a revenue pressure on our revenue budget, and potentially moving some of those they are on the basis that we're about to be charged a significant level of tax. We're about to make our balance sheet look very difficult. Moving those across into this may help actually improve our position from an auditory point of view. So actually, simply as an investment opportunity, if this didn't have any of the stuff with it, if this was just an investment opportunity where we're able to put this in, it would probably make sense for this council. Now, I don't want to try and colour anybody's opinion and say we would definitely vote for it, but if this was an investment opportunity, I think the discussions that we would be talking about would be very different. Might have taken a different governance route as well, but that's where we are with it. The final point in the Aspinall Verde report is actually just a restatement of the conclusion of the CADA report, which is Appendix D. Now, I've had some discussions with people. I have some concerns with that report. I think it leaves a lot to be desired, actually. And particularly around the calculations that are used to drive that gross value added about what's going to happen to the economy by making this investment, suggest that there's going to be 100 new jobs that are going to be created. And I'm not yet comfortable about whether they're being considered to be full-time equivalents or whether they're going to be headcount. And there's some discussions in there about the exact numbers that underlie that calculation. And I do have some concerns about that. I'm not going to try and skate over that. A second point, similarly related to that, a lot of the value that they've suggested in the first 2 years will be about the construction jobs that are created, the investment in construction that will happen due to the fit out. Again, there is nothing actually saying that that investment will go straight back into our local economy, will drive our local economy. But actually, with both of those points, they could, in theory, drop the benefits cost ratio over 3 years below 1-to-1. There is a possibility. I'm not going to try and pretend like I'm able to do the calculations because I don't know what the calculations underneath it are. And I've even tried to chase up some of the sources that were used, and it's not really illuminated that for me. On that basis, I actually don't think that we have the evidence here tonight to conclude that this £1.7 million will actually result in its own on a regeneration of our economy. The other parts of that development may well do so, but actually on its own, I'm not convinced that we have the evidence to support that conclusion. What I am convinced of is that this is a good financial decision, that the numbers here add up, and that the additional the additional revenue that we'll be able to raise from doing this, potentially through internal borrowing or through use of an additional capital receipt, will actually help us ease some pressure on our revenue budget, which will then allow us to hedge that against future budgetary pressures and the potential for precept increases. On that basis, I am happy to support the proposal that's in front of us because it makes good financial sense as an investment, quite aside from a very possible, although in my opinion unproven, possibility that it may support the regeneration of our local economy. On that basis, I cannot see a reason not to support. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Councillor Roberts. And now I don't know if Councillor Ray had a point of information.
I would just like to respond, and it will be brief. Just a
Well,
couple
it's
of points.
you have a point of information rather than a general response because you've spoken already in this debate.
Yeah, but I think some points were made, which I think I'm entitled to respond to, and I will
Well,
keep it.
if they're
I will- I will keep it brief.
factually, I think you are. Otherwise,
With-
or
I
a
think
personal explanation.
Yes, I think some specific
Go-
comments were made about myself and the other Lib Dem members. I think I'm entitled. But if I could just
Go on then,
carry on,
just-
I will keep it very brief. So the point was made about lack of ambition. I can say we fully support the cinema, and also members might remember we were the party. It's okay. Well,
Yeah, I
if
think
it's a response-
you're only. I think
Okay,
you have.
I'm going to make, if I can just make one final point. We are not, I've heard comments about let's vote for change. We are not voting for change's sake.
Yeah. Yes. All right. I think we're going to move on then to. I think
Councillor Strachan made a point about we've got Evolve, our joint venture partner, and we are relying upon their expertise.
But I
They
think
are
that,
not putting
all
any
right,
of their funding in.
I think you have spoken at length, Councillor Ray, and we're going to be here all night with points of objection. Councillor Ashton wants to. Well, very quickly. I mean, yeah, he was only saying what you'd said, wasn't he?
We're not putting in half of 1.7.
Yeah, okay, right. Shall we move on to Councillor Ashton? Have you got a point of?
Yeah, we're making the point that we are working with Evolve. However, Evolve are offloading all the risk in the next 3 years. We don't have an equal dog in the fight. I'm sure that the botanist is an attractive investment and investment isn't the best one that we can possibly get.
Okay. Thank you. I think that put. So, can I just ask perhaps Councillor Smith to respond?
Yeah.
I just want to say that there was a specific question from Councillor Trent about the legal revisions, there's 332, which I think.
Yeah, Chair, if I may, the chief executive, yes, the quick answer to Trent advice, but I'm going to, if it's okay, I'm going to bring in the chief exec just to put some more detail on that. And
Okay.
if I could just sum up, please, Chair.
Yeah,
then
if
I
you
think we're
sum
good.
up and then.
Oh, there we go, Chair. I think I've got the mic. Thank you. I think Councillor Trent has asked a question, Chair, about the legal advice that quite rightly it does point out in the paper we were still waited for at the time we were going to print. I do now have that legal advice. The question, I believe, is about the impact on the shareholding of the LLP as a consequence of us putting in a capital contribution that is greater than our partner Evolve. So the legal advice we've received from Trowers and Hamlins, who are our lawyers that have been and working with very closely on all of the detail of all of the agreements of the LLP, is very clear. The agreement allows for one or other of the partners to additionally put in a financial contribution. It also sets out the arrangements for, thank you very much. It also sets out very clearly the arrangements for repayment of that additionality, that additional capital contribution. It has no impact whatsoever on shareholding of the company. Chair.
Thank you, thank you. I thought Councillor Vernon had his hand up, but have you got, well, we were hoping to move on now to Councillor Smith's, if that's okay.
Thank you, Chair. I don't think there are any more specific questions as such, although I've taken a lot of notes. But I just want to say, in general, there was quite a lot of talk from, especially the back of the chamber, about the risk of, and I quote, spending £1.7 million. Now, to be quite clear, we are not spending £1.7 million on this, okay? And the risk is most definitely mitigated by the fact that this is, whichever way we look at it, this is an investment our council's making. So our council invests money in other councils, in banks, in shares or whatever to bring in our revenue. So we invest money. We are simply moving £1.7 million out of that investment into another investment. And the great thing about this investment, especially for the back of the chamber, the great thing with this investment is not only a financial investment, maybe slightly less return to my brother's investments, but not massively. But it's investing in our place, it's investing in Lichfield District. And I think that's for me, that's well worth taking. Of course, there's a risk. There's always risk in everything when we're spending that sort of. But for me, that's well worth taking that risk. Just finally, in terms of the accusation of not looking at other options, Evolve Estates have most definitely, both for Lichfield and across the country in their investment, looked at many other options. They're the experts in this. We've gone into partnership with them to be the experts in this, and we're more than satisfied that what we're seeing now with the Botanist is the best option available just on the table. All of these larger national firms expect the landlord to put some sort of capex in to do the fit out, whilst they commit themselves to a base rent for a number of years. And I'm really satisfied that we can say now the Botanist has committed to a lease for a number of years, which in that period, the 1.7 million will be paid back, and they've committed to that. So therefore, that really de-risks that 1.7 million to me. I think that covers everything I wanted to sort of sum up on, Chair. If I could ask for a named vote on this, I think that's really important because this is a really important decision.
I'm told that, well, anyway, first of all, can I just check whether anybody wants to move into private session to discuss any other of the details that we haven't mentioned, or, you know, name a council nobody, right. I understand that a name vote has to be called for by the leader or the leader of the opposition. So what Councillor Strachan and Councillor Smith cannot ask for name votes, but we are having a name vote. No. Okay. Yeah.
Thank you, Chair. When I call your name, could I ask you please to indicate for or against? Councillor Anketel. Councillor Ashton. Councillor Ball. Councillor Benavicius. Councillor Benyon. Councillor Booker. Councillor Braga. Councillor Checkland. Councillor Cox. Thank you, Councillor Cox. Councillor Cross. Councillor D. Ennis. Councillor L. Ennis. Councillor Evans. Councillor Farrell. Councillor Galvin. Councillor Harvey Coggins. Councillor Hawkins.
Oh.
Apologies, yeah.
No, apologies.
Councillor Henshaw. Councillor Hill. Councillor Holland. Councillor Hughes.
For.
Councillor Young. Councillor Marshall. Councillor Mears. Councillor Norman. Councillor Powell. Councillor Pullen. Councillor Ray. Councillor Robertson. I've lost my track now. Councillor Rushton, please. Against, thank you. Councillor Salter. Councillor Sylvester Hall. Councillor A Smith. Councillor J Smith. Councillor Strachan. Councillor P Taylor. Councillor S Taylor. Councillor Trent. Councillor Vernon. Councillor Warfield. Councillor Whitehouse. Councillor M Wilcox. Councillor S Wilcox. Councillor Woodward. Councillor Yates. Thank you very much. Yeah.
We don't write out the numbers. No. Yeah. Okay. I think just thank you very much. I know it's been a very long session. I think I'm advised that we don't need to go into private session in order to do the confidential minutes, but Councillor Norman looks horrified, and I'm sure we'll just confirm them. Yeah, we will confirm them, but without.
Thank you, Chair. I submit the confidential minutes of the meeting
Oh,
held on
sorry.
the 3rd of April, 2024.
Thank you. Yeah, the vote was carried. Do you want do you need them?
Can I just also thank the members and officers in particularly, when they're able to answer all those aspects, all those questions, as much as we can in part one, even very nervous about what we might reveal. So I've been grateful all the way through on this, so as much as it's been in part one in public, as it's been now. Thank you.
Thank you. I think that brings the meeting to an end. It brings our live broadcast to an end. And I'd like to thank everyone here and everyone at home. Thank you.